Hello. Hello, everybody. It's very warm here today. So I put my hair up for a second time today. Oh, hi. Somebody's here. Please say hello. Welcome. I don't know what the weather's like where everybody else is. So we're just going to have to see if people show up. It usually takes about 10 to 15 minutes before people actually show up for some reason. Now, last week, I can't believe it's been a week already, my neighbor, who's just so supportive, who lives upstairs, she showed up and she interacted. I didn't even know it was her. I didn't recognize her last name. And I was going to ask, is that name Russian or something? And she said, when I went upstairs the other day to visit her, she said, yeah, my last name is partially Russian or from that area, I think. Nietzsche? I don't know. So, yeah, I hope everybody is doing okay. It was 68 degrees here today. It was very nice, but for some reason, instead of high noon, it starts to get warmer after 4 o'clock. And you can tell me if that happens in your area as well. So get yourself a drink. I might go and get myself some more to drink. Can you see my microphone? There. Plugged in, it's working. My laptop is on a riser. And so I don't have on my black dress. It was just getting really warm in here. And I thought, I'm just going to put on my summer tank top. At least I'm not in my robe like I was a few weeks ago. I had to hop back on and try to get in for a second time. So I called it my bedtime live. Lives have been going really well. The people who need to show up have been showing up, right? You have to look at it that way. And when things show up in your life and they're uncomfortable, they're supposed to. They're supposed to show up in your life. And this is a very good way for me to lead in to what I'm going to talk about tonight. So, the fascination, I think, with vampires is probably unknown. Hello. We fantasize about it. It's called science fiction, but we live with energy vampirism all day. Well, not all day, but every day in some degree or another. So, the person who keeps coming in and out, I don't know who it is. I'm going to go fill this up with some more boiled water and some more electrolytes because I had a really big, hard workout at Club Pilates today. And please say hello, read my message, and I'll be right back. Okay, excuse that. I put an emergency multivitamin powder pack in my water that has electrolytes, but I also got something else called Kick It from the Dollar Tree with electrolytes. It's not like the liquid IV, but it helps. And I need to be drinking 4 of these at least a day. So, all right, let me just start talking. I do get views after I have uploaded. I recently made a video with a pretty nice thumbnail. Instead of just me being on the thumbnail, I put bloody red letters, energy vampirism. So since I was talking about it, let me go ahead and talk about it. There's a place that I go up the street for a free meal. And there are a lot of marginalized people that go there. I don't think I've seen anybody who's truly well adjusted except for the volunteers. Now, all I can say is that Spirit has led me there for several reasons. Number 1, to count my blessings. And number 2, as someone who now vibrates at a high frequency, if you become psychic, and this is another thing that I need to talk about, developing your psychism. You are going to have to get some systems of protection in place more and more and more, and even more than one familiar. This is why I have 2. I'm convinced now that the reason Spirit brought me 2 familiars is because of all the shit that I was going to be going through since the pandemic. And if you've been following me, you know what I'm talking about. Now, I feel like the things that were going on before I moved, Jade took the hit. And the side of her body was losing hair. But I didn't notice it until I had to start working and packing and loading my truck to take things to storage. So I was freaking busy. Every day I was keeping track of how much money I was making. I was trying to apply for apartments online. I looked at a couple apartments. It's always good to check things out ahead of time, even if you're not thinking of moving. Before I sold my mobile home, I came over here and I looked at these apartments and I looked at a studio, and they're very nice and the price wasn't bad and there's a lot of amenities. So I finally remembered it. I came over here and I started the process of finding out how much money I really do need to make to be qualified to move in here. And it's a lot, guys. Even the old dumpy places and the neighborhood is not nice. They want a lot. They want a high credit score, and they may need first and last, but they want 3 times the amount of the rent for an income. I made it, barely. I got my friend to sign a letter saying that I work for her from time to time and she pays me cash. It's true. But he said I still didn't quite have the amount because of how I get paid for a certain month. It overlaps. But with the letter and everything else I had, he took me. Like my credit score, I'd started working on it for a couple of months, but I was like 5 points shy of where they wanted it, which I think was about 650 or something. Someone keeps coming and going. I really think Spirit told him, try to get this overlooked, because this woman is telling you she has to go somewhere right now. I really do. Because he kept telling me, well, you still don't have quite enough. And then I'd go back and I would, I got the letter from my friend and this and that. And he still said that the money wasn't coming in at the right time in the way that they needed it. And I thought, that's it. I'm going to be living in my truck. But it worked out and he let me move in. Again, divine intervention had to be in play. Because he said, well, let me talk to my manager about it and this and that. So I had a long history. I'd been in that place for 4 years. I was in the previous place for 1 year. That's 5 years with the same apartment property company. And before that, 5 years in my mobile home. So they do take the length of history of residence into account. So here I had the summer off and I went up the street. And sure enough, a man just came up and sat in front of me. Now he's not the first one. There's been several others. But this one actually started conversing. And he was telling me, basically just talking about himself. Very, very loud, very self-absorbed. I figured it all out. I just got to get a woman. And this is the broken record that was going on and on and on and on and on. I didn't want to get up and move. I thought, damn it, I don't want to get up and move. And a lot of people feel like, well, he's obviously unstable. I don't know what could happen. So from time to time, he would come and he would do that. But he's also been getting increasingly angry. Like, the world owes me a woman, right? Very entitled, very, very loud, very, very angry. A few other people that he sat across from would tell him, that's enough. I don't want to hear it anymore. Now, I was told he was talking about guns. I said, really? Okay, so I don't know if he did or not. He's talked a lot about the war. So he came in the other day and butted into my conversation with a woman. No respect for boundaries, okay? Here we have an energy vampire. This is not just a person who is rude. This is a person who butts in your conversation and twists it to fit their narrative. This is a person who believes the world owes him something. On this day, he said very loudly, I hate everyone. I want to just get a gun and shoot everyone. I think he said kill them. And at the moment, not realizing I had a witness in front of me, I didn't get up to go call the police. I wanted to sit and try to relax and eat my dinner. But when he started, and I would talk about what I was experiencing with the school district to this woman, he butted in again. And it ended up where he talked about his friend blowing his brains out. And I said, can you not talk about that while we're having dinner? And so he got up and very angrily said, I'm going to stand my ground, twice. And then he moved away. Now, he's moved away before when I told him, I really don't want to hear about this. I really don't want to talk about this. And I've asked you before, you're welcome to sit across from me, but keep it down and try to talk about some things that are pleasant, because it's upsetting to me. But he only did it for a few minutes. Saw him in the bank one day. He's 65. He said he's going to get his Social Security. He's opening an account, and he showed me how much he's going to get. But he still wants to come to the banquet. He doesn't have a lot of money saved. He told me how much he's got in retirement. It's not enough to retire on. He wants a woman to help him. So with these types of people, you do have to, unfortunately, you have to get up and move away. I went to talk to the person who gives us our chips to come into dinner. And I said, this is the first time that he's come in and been violently angry. I think he's a danger. Can you talk to the director? So I went in Friday. He said, I talked to the director, but they said, we can this time boot him out for the day. We've warned him before. It hasn't stopped. You're not the only one who's mentioned that he talks about guns. He's come up to complain to us about, being so loud and angry and talking about guns. And there's children in here. And I told him one day, can you not talk about guns and shooting? There's children in here. So I don't know if it was Wednesday or Thursday when I'd mentioned it to the guy up front, and he had a talk with him. He made it a point to come up to me beside me. This is the punishment, okay? This is the smear campaign. I don't know what's going on. Everybody's crazy. I haven't done anything. And he came up to me to confide to me. We weren't in line together anymore. He had been talked to, so he was 4 people behind me. And he kept saying it. And I'd been trying to ignore him, and he wasn't getting the message. There was another nice man who wanted to sit with me and was having to stand there and listen to that. And he said, I wanted to come up to you and just say good evening one night, but that guy was sitting with you and I don't like him. So I turned to this man and I said, I don't think you're conscious of what you're saying. You came in here, sat next to me, butted into my conversation and said, I hate everybody, very loudly. I should just get a gun and shoot them all. His face turned red. He turned sideways, put his head down and said, I didn't say that. I said, yes, you did. And I think you said you want to kill them all. He said, no, I said everybody hates me. What's the difference? It was followed up by, I want to shoot everybody. These are people that are not just trying to get attention or someone to give them a woman. These are people that are soaking up everybody's attention that they can possibly get. He walked to the men behind me and said, well, if she's not coming here to be helpful, what's she coming here for? Oh my God, if that's not funny. That's an example of a very childish energy vampire. Okay. Hello. Story time. I'm telling stories. This is how I illustrate things. Okay. So, yeah, he was, I just turned to him and told him, it's a waste of your breath. You either have to move away. I was in line. I was stuck, you know? So he goes back behind me and tells those people, I haven't done anything. I don't know what she's complaining about. Right? They're the loudest ones. And if she's not here to be helpful, what's she here for? So later I told the man who gives us the chip all these things. And he said, well, you're not here to be his psychiatrist. I said, I know. I'm here to have my dinner. So these are mentally ill people in some cases. Now, I stood my ground. I called him out. His face got red. He turned away, put his head down, and he lied. But he tried to harass me from the back of the line. So I told the guy the next day, or before I left that evening. And so Friday, he said he's been banned for the day. We told him he can't, do these things. We've had multiple complaints now, not just from you, but from men before you. I said, it's not going to do any good. He's unstable. He's 65 years old. He's not going to change. He said, I called the police and I asked, if there's anything. And they said, no, there's nothing they can do right now. I said, of course not. Not until, he actually acts on it. I said, it's really sad, because they're providing this place for people like that. But they really should have a security guard. Someone came in Friday evening. Very, very, very loud. There was 2 other females. One was a teenager. He was yelling at them, and then he was yelling even louder. I don't know why. He was pushing this young teenage girl away and pushing her out. And so the man who gives the chip came up and said, you can't come in here acting like this. I thought, hallelujah. Finally, the bad behavior is being addressed. And so for whatever reason, the teenage girl and the younger girl did leave, and he stayed. And he wasn't being obnoxious to anybody else. So I told him, I said, if he sits with me and I get up and move, and then he follows me or harasses me or walks beside me or comes up to me to tell me what a crazy person I am, I'm going to take my plate. I'm going to stand over here where you can see me and yell, leave me alone. And that's your clue that he's harassing me. He said, okay, make a scene. In the school district, we are teaching people what bad behavior is, what bullying is, and so forth and so on. And anyone who demonstrates any type of behavior like that, it's addressed immediately. You can't talk like that, right? Or you did such and such. And you immediately have to go to the behavior counselor. So in that way, over the past 5 years or so, the district is trying to nip it in the bud and get children to understand really what bad behavior and bullying is. You're in the lunchroom, you're in polite society, you shouldn't be acting like a crazy maniac or, a monkey. It's the same thing applies if you're going to grow up and go to the banquet. But a lot of adults who have not had this behavior addressed, say over the past 10 years or so, don't even understand what their bad behavior is or what bullying is for that matter. Now, on my video, Energy Vampirism, I first talked about living in a haunted house where the purpose was to torture us for sleep deprivation and then implant suggestions into our heads. Now, this is definitely a form, I think, of energy vampirism. It is, I'm trying to think now. It's planting negative suggestions. There are some really wonderful episodes on Charmed about all kinds of demons. They call them demons. These lower level things that do these kinds of really torturous, negative things to make you weak and then implant suggestions. These are truly demons, or they are demonic entities. And as I said in my video, if you want to go watch it, these, I believe now, were shamans who dedicated their afterlife to torturing anybody who decided to move in and live on that land in that area. Because the people I'd had to come over had known that there was a bloody massacre that had occurred in that area in like a 1-mile radius years ago, and that the land was cursed. Now, the radiator was cursed. I saw a really weird looking entity inside of it with my camera. The camera phone I had at the time had infrared. So the things that we don't see are the things that can really hurt us. It's difficult to prove. It's a spiritual concept. And unless you can capture it on infrared camera, you don't know what's going on or what you're dealing with. Now, as I was discovering new things last year, I began to talk about my realizations of narcissism and narcissists. First, beginning with my ex, and then I was actually led to go even further into my childhood and remember events that had happened with my mother. Most recently, I've had some new information come to me that's made me realize that they do have, well, they don't just have negative entities coming to them or attaching to them, but I think that some of them are born to be vampiric. Some of them are born as a parasite. Now, as of this recording, there are just certain things that I cannot talk about. If anybody had ever told my mother, "You're a narcissist," it might have been devastating. It might not have been devastating. Because people function in their dysfunction for too long, I think. And because she was covert and passive, my father was able to tolerate her. But the demand for attention was to the point where she would force me and my sisters to stay in our bedrooms and close the hall door so she could have my father all to herself. And we would look under the door, we'd crack open the door, and she'd yell at us to get out. And she'd say children should be seen and not heard. She did some really, really, really cold things, which to me felt like everything else that she's doing is just an act to look like she's holding up her side of societal expectations, because their biggest fear is rejection. They don't want people talking bad about them, rejecting them. Making them an outsider. So my father was the primary source of energy. She never had a friend. Oh, I could go get my phone in case somebody decides to hop in and have a conversation or a question. There's a spiritual concept of beings that are here to hurt and destroy humanity. Now, I've said we're all from different places of the universe, and I do believe that. Whatever was here originally and we were hybrid with, if we were hybrid with good beings, then we're good spirits. But what I was shown a few weeks ago was the spirit of an individual after a spiritual working, and I had gone to bed, that truly was alien. And I went through the 12 stages of grief, okay? Very quickly, within a matter of like a day or two. But I finally came to acceptance because I've seen so many documentaries. And I realized I've heard this in religious contexts, right? The devil seeks to destroy. We need to look at it, I think, in a more modern way And that is, there are creatures, I think, that have come to this planet for whatever reason, I don't know, but they're very low vibing. They're not evolved. They're very, very sad, and I think they're homesick. This is not their home planet. For whatever reason, they've incarnated, and they cannot generate their own energy. And so they do a variety of things. They go to social gatherings. They have as many people as they can to be around, and they always have a sob story. They manage to find people from time to time, and they go through a lot of people in order to get conversation energy, attention energy, and sometimes they're incredibly promiscuous, and this is another source of energy. Now, some of them are also into really dark magics, and they are willing to work with whatever powerful dark energy they can in order to get what they want, which is to have enough money so that they don't have to work much. And this is unfortunately really the main goal of a narcissist. They are emotionally stunted, okay? It took my mother 15 years to develop a sense of what it means to be mature and be self-reliant. Now, she worked to become self-reliant because my father wasn't contributing to a Social Security account. What he inherited from my grandmother had been spent. And instead of keeping one of the apartment buildings like he wanted to, he went along with my mother and sold everything. So when that was gone, she realized all she could have for her old age was some Social Security money and Air Force pension because she was in the Air Force. So she divorced him. She discarded him, and she set off on her own to start earning credits. Now, I've mentioned this is what my ex-husband had done too, when he admitted to me that he was here to earn credits and then was going to go back to his country. Now, that plan to discard me prompted me to divorce him sooner rather than have him leave the country, leaving me with credit cards that he had acquired behind my back that, needed to be paid off somehow. That's another story. So these people can be like black holes because they're never satisfied. My sister also went on to marry a narcissist. And after 10 years, she couldn't take it anymore. So when it's covert, it's been said to be like a slow IV drip of poison. And they learn how to say things. They learn how to mirror your behavior, and they learn how to function in a way where they can get the things that they need. But even if they're practicing dark magics, and even if they are sacrificing animals, it's not enough. What's better than that is human life force energy, our spiritual energy, and even better, sex. So there's a lot of insatiable habits, behaviors, patterns that are life-sucking. And these are not just people that have childhood issues. I've come to realize these are aliens. And I don't know who else has said anything like this. I just hit upon a video by Mark Bajerski, the healer. He did a video called Blackout. And in it, he talked about a client who invited him out to coffee after his session and asked him, "Do you know how this world works?" And he said, no, not really. And this man told him the world is divided. There's people who want to really just kind of destroy us in a way. They want to create chaos. They feed off of chaos, and they like to cause problems on a mass scale. Now, he believes that's all that they feed off of. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. I was led to learn that someone who is intent on drawing from you, especially if they can see your aura and your energy, will do whatever they can to be in your vicinity or hang out next to you and draw. However they do it, their back could be turned to you, but they're thinking of you, and they're just thinking of taking from you. Now, sometimes I had on my Astarte talisman for protection, but sometimes I didn't. I had been working a summer job and was really, really, really exhausted. So I just go outside to sit on the patio. And this is where people who are looking at you or watching you, you never know what they're thinking, what they're feeling, how intent they are in looking at what you've got, right? Vampirism is looking at something and, kind of sucking it up mentally and emotionally. Do you remember on Everybody Loves Raymond, Deborah mentioned one day, because Frank had come in and he said, "Oh, I'm going to smell the heads of the kids sucking up that youth." That's not a joke, guys. That's the concept. And Raymond came home. "Oh, what happened today?" Right? She said, "Oh, nothing." Frank came over and was sucking the youth out of the kids again. This is the concept, guys. And it could seem playful. It could seem innocent. But this is the concept. So I do not make fear-mongering videos. You know that. I don't do clickbait. But being given the information that's been given to me, because I'm a messenger, I'm a medium and a messenger, this was shown to me. I tried to help my mom change psychologically. It never worked. Psychologists say they're hardwired and they die that way. Why? Because this is their spirit. So if you encounter someone who's going to be whining and complaining, asking you for help, I mean, they seem to be completely selfish and self-absorbed. They're not really offering you anything. Maybe they've got pretty words. "I want to buy you a gift." Wait and see. "Oh, wouldn't it be nice to have a house?" Hello. And you can have a garden. These are ways to keep you conversing. But there is no real addition to your life that's positive. This is what you need to watch out for. Because when you get involved with someone, and it can take some time to realize what's going on, even if you wear a protective amulet, there's other things you have to do, because they can get into your head, they can get into your dreams. Now I'm revisiting a system that I used that was given to me intuitively by my guides years ago. And that is putting my pentagram over my headboard for when I sleep, and a mirror I found at Goodwill that I decided to get that was the perfect size. When I put it at the footboard, the foot of the bed over the dresser reflected the pentagram exactly. And it wasn't until some months later that I realized that because I was working on my psychic self and doing tarot and astral traveling and working with my guide, that I needed to have this protection for when I slept. Because when you sleep and you are in the dream state, the dream world, the astral, physics don't apply. This may not help you when you're sleeping. You have to have something that's astral, like the reflection of the pentagram symbol in a mirror from here to the opposite side over the dresser, entirely covering from that wall to this wall above you and reflecting that image as a doorway so that when you enter the astral, you are protected. Now, being married to someone for so long, there were times when the pentagram was off, or, we had just been together for so long, he was able to get into my head and influence me to think of allowing him, when he came home, the physical intimacy. I didn't know it. But I think spirit knew it, and they put the smell of apricot under my nose so that I could just relax and feel amorous about it as a form of just enjoying and feeling the sensations as a woman enduring, because they knew that he had probably planted this suggestion in my head. But I needed the energy and the relaxation. So now he had asked me, oh, why were you so receptive? I said, I don't know. I think he knew. They play dumb. I said, I had a dream before you got home. That's how it works. So sometimes spirit will allow you to experience something until later on you figure out that the person you were with really did have that psychic connection. When you're intimate with someone, you develop a psychic connection. Now, even if you're not, if they've tapped into your energy enough times, being close to you, hanging out by you, focusing on taking your energy, they can psychically connect to you. And if you're still having to go through residual leftover psychological entanglement with a parasite, a narcissist, like I had, then they hijack your identity, guys. Okay? And I didn't want to stay on this subject and beat it to death, because there's other psychologists that talk about this on YouTube. And I don't think that we should necessarily get angry about it or worry about it or even talk about it so much. We just need to be aware of the behaviors and how we're feeling. Because if you feel better when you're away from them than when you're with them, you are with an energy vampire. And even someone who's just constantly moaning and complaining about their life and their money and their situation and their energy, and they might actually have some health problems. They are low on energy because they're constantly having to pretend to be a mature, strong adult. My ex would do basically the same thing as my mother, do something for a little while and then collapse. He'd go to work to make the money, he'd come home and he'd collapse. And when I finally asked him several times, why can you not stay awake for longer and be engaged? He said, I have to regenerate. And I never knew why. They have to put on another mask other than the human body that they're wearing, guys. Okay. So the reason why psychology, hypnotherapy, and all that doesn't work, even though I saw my mother actually improve one day after a couple of weeks, she never stuck with it. They would have to stick with it every day to manage their insecurities, their paranoia, their negative thought habits. They're not going to do that. So when someone has that spirit of the entity I'm talking about, it is a low-level entity, and it doesn't look at all like any type of nice, beautiful alien humanoid. Okay? Maybe some of you know what I'm talking about. But this was a horrible, wonderful truth. And as I thought about all of the imagery that I had seen, it became clearer and clearer to me. It just was being revealed to me. I'll tell you what happened after I accepted it. I got a call for work, so I started getting ready. And this was like a day after, right? I'd gone through all the stages of grief. And I accepted it. It was an incredible piece of information given to me, shown to me. I go to get ready in the bathroom and I start seeing a geometric shape turning, a cube turning. And on two of the sides was like a multicolored lights. And I thought, what is this? And it was in my third eye. I thought, okay, it's not affecting my ability to get dressed. So I'm getting dressed. And, I'm going to the bed to do a few things there. It's still there. And I'm noticing it. I mean, it's just as clear as anything. And I'm noticing it turning and turning. And each time it does, I see two sides with these multicolors like a prism. And I finished getting ready, put on my shoes. I'm going to the kitchen to get my purse and my water bottle, and I'm still seeing it. Grab my keys, go out in the hallway, close the door, I'm still seeing it. Walking down the stairs, I'm still seeing it. Going out the door to the truck, I'm still seeing it. I put it out of my mind while I'm driving, but when I get to the school parking lot, I park the truck, I get out, lock it, so then I'm more relaxed, right? And I see it again. I'm crossing the parking lot, going to the building. I'm seeing it, and there, I see the behavior specialist. Hi, I'm still seeing it. I'm going in, open the door, go in to push the button. I don't see it for a few seconds, and then I push the button, go in, and I still didn't see it. So, I'm going in to do my business, get my assignment sheet, and get my badge. Leave the office, open the door to go up to the room, and I see it again. And I see it all the way down to just before I get to the room I need to go into for the day. And I didn't see it anymore after that. But I'll tell you, I just felt incredibly light. Again, it's like I'm having another upgrade, another somatic relief, a frequency increase, upgrade. More of this knowing that it doesn't do any good to allow someone to keep apologizing, even if they're working on controlling their anger, working on controlling other things. And the few things that had happened before that had told me there's really no sense in trying to have any type of a connection or communication with someone who's not adding anything to your life. And I have, like I said, my neighbor who's been very helpful and supportive, and somebody else who's been the same to me. And I thank the Creator for that, because it showed me that when we realize we deserve good people, and I do have a healthy friendship with a female, that more of those people will come into your life, not just one. But working on your spiritual side, okay, and developing your psychic self, you are going to notice and have these people come to you and want your attention. You do need to get a talisman, which I've talked about, and you do need to learn how to protect yourself before you go to sleep. You also need to learn how to understand your dreams, because if they've tapped into you psychically and you're able to sense or see a situation in dream, you may think this is supposed to happen or this is going to happen. And you may engage even further with these people. But the more you get to know your spiritual side, the more you'll understand your dreams. And my Dream Recall course is designed to help you develop that ability. I wanted to give updates and I forgot. There is a Witch Academy that I'm going to be signing up for to join as a teacher. And it looks like I'm going to be able to link my online course. So learning how to set up psychic protection for when you're sleeping, and also understanding your dreams, because you're working in the astral, you're working out of time. You're working in the metaphysical. Your physical talisman may only work to a certain degree. Your knowledge of yourself and your spiritual side, and when you wake up and you sit down and you analyze your dream and you ask, does this make sense? Right? You might even start to think, oh, I'm receiving a prophetic dream. You have to use discernment. And I have notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of dreams I had received for when I was on that timeline. And it's taken me years, guys, years. And this is why the psychologists say it's so hard for survivors of psychological entanglement. Don't really necessarily get over it. It's difficult to understand that you can be vulnerable and get caught up and be with someone, again, who is an energetic vampire. They're using energy vampirism. They're parasites. They are a black hole. This is just who they are. And once we accept the truth, we can start looking for ways to protect ourselves. Also, my ebook, which represents all my years of study and practice, and using the power of my words in mindful meditation, can help to break the bloodline link. I need to talk about this more specifically on a video called Breaking Your Vampiric Bloodline Link. That should get some views. Must be a beautiful day where everybody is, which is good, you know. And, Mark Bajerski was saying so many people just want to hide their head in the sand. Orly Stewart said many people will not listen. They won't believe. I've read a comment from a woman who said it's an invisible phenomenon. But this has literally been shown to me. Literally. They have the spirit of some thing, a creature. I'm not joking. And I might have to make a video about this. It's not something you want to go up to someone and tell them, like telling them they're a narcissist. They're probably already suffering a lifelong, feelings of depression because I don't think they're on their home planet. But they're inside a human body. They're wearing a human suit. The reptilians are the same way. Now, I don't know their story. I don't know if my mother was reptilian. I never got to see her spirit being shown to me, what it looked like. There's different kinds of alien creatures that are here. And they have to incarnate into a human body. But they don't feel comfortable. And then they've got all these other very low vibing energies. If you think of Edgar the Bug from Men in Black, okay? And he was wearing a human suit. Hi, thanks for the thumbs up. Is that you, Linda? She listened to me tell all this crazy stuff. But I'm a messenger, and this was revealed to me. This was shown to me. And I tried to heal my mother for many years. But she died the way she was. Why? Because that's who she was. So these people cannot be helped. We need to stop trying to help them. This is coming from a healer who doesn't want to say this. But it's true. And until you see someone who's going to consistently want to listen to you, add value to your life, and not just take away. It was just a matter of a couple of months with me trying to share with this person, and they asked me for money. After, I want to buy you a gift. And this is especially true with the younger men who are going after older women. And you can even tell them, I'm not wealthy. I'm working. I'm struggling to pay for sky-high rent for a tiny little apartment. There's many other things I cannot reveal, and I haven't. I've never ever described these people that I've met how they look or what their name is. And I don't think we should go up to them and tell them what we know. Just like this man over at the banquet. It wouldn't do me any good anymore to tell him, look, you're welcome to sit across from me, but you need to be more quiet and pleasant. And by the way, I'm fine. Thanks for asking. Forget about it. You've suffered it 3, 4, 5 times. Get up and move away. It took my mother 15 years to develop a sense of self-reliance. She did learn how to be polite in society. She did know how to manipulate. Those are the covert ones. But, the demands to call, pretty much call me every day, I think. And if I wasn't available, she'd call somebody else. They don't find other things to do because they need to feed off other people's energy. And like I said, it's either through conversation, physical attention, or intimacy. So who's here? Who gave me the thumbs up? Linda, Daisy, who's here? It's been an hour and 2 minutes. So yeah, for me as a healer to have to say, give it up. Stop trying to help these people by sending them to rehab, sending them to psychologists. They will always be who they are. The truth will set you free. And like Mark Bajerski said, some people are saying he has no empathy. What's more empathetic than telling someone the truth? After all the years that you've learned and suffered, I broke out of psychological entanglement, guys. And I did it by constantly meditating and learning about the power of the spoken word. And even my friend said, I am not the typical, I'm one of the rare people that really, really stuck with it, because as you grow and you're tempted to revert back, what was I going to do? I was going to have to realize that, and I did. When I realized I had to sit with all of this confusion, that's when the Kundalini energy rose. And I had another dream. And I think that's where the final psychological entanglement was released, because I had understood what was going on in my childhood and that my mother was a parasite. She was a narcissist. And so no matter how much you tolerate them and forgive them, it is you giving up your identity. You're giving up your mind, your voice, your opinions, your right to disagree, your right to object. And then you have to suffer the punishment. And it does get worse over time, especially if your other sources of support are gone. They can get physical. And this is why I know someone that had a family member who herself was dealing with a chemical substance addiction, and met someone, and you think they're off of it, and then he fell back. Well, then she had a baby, and it's a very difficult thing to understand and to get over. You may be the unhealed empath with the psychological entanglements. But the other person, and it's usually the narcissist empath paradigm. The other person is the parasite. So working on yourself is definitely worth it. My ebook link is below, and my Dream Recall course is below as well. And I was learning both things pretty much at the same time as I was growing through my earlier years, my young adult years. So understanding that there are aliens among us and they feed off of our energy. I have heard a lot of other things said from someone that's become even more enlightening. The lifestyle that they live that never changes because of the immense amount of life force energy that they need. And the best source of that is not through doing their blood magics, but through sex. So if they're not getting it from you every day, a lot of them are out getting it somewhere else because that's the best source. If we could put on glasses and see who these people are, boy, wouldn't that be good? Well, I wish you knew I knew he was here. I've talked for an hour. I think I am going to make a video about breaking the links of your bloodline, because a lot of us who are really good beings spiritually from another place, a human being, right? I would say human being. Our blood has been muddied. Our bloodlines have been muddied. These people have been interbreeding, not people. These aliens have been interbreeding with us, guys, for years. That's one way for them to infiltrate. So, when you ask the question, why would they want to destroy all of these half-breeds in the masses? I don't know. They don't have good judgment. But, back to what I said I saw is a very, very horrible, wonderful truth. And I don't have any answers as to how many lifetimes it would take for them to possibly change and evolve. I do think all things evolve, but I do think that our bloodlines have been muddied, without a doubt. And this is the psychological entanglement. And without working on reclaiming your, say, humanity back through all of these meditations and these mindful meditations and these positive affirmations to find out who you are. Where are you from? I was told that after I had my first somatic release. You won't know who you are. Your identity is all caught up with these parasites. And the children who have a parent that is a parasite, a narcissist. Danish Bashar had 2. So he's really worked on himself a lot, and he's gone to school and he's become a specialist in NPD. And he has been saying that demons are attached to these people. What I'm saying is that demons are not necessarily attached. They are a parasite. They don't look like any type of enlightened, peaceful, loving being inside the human body. And, the victim mentality is real. They're very, very unhappy, I think, because they're homesick. I don't know where they're from, but they had to come here. and incarnate in a human body. So let's continue the conversation. I hope this will grow as I continue to talk about this. Our protection for our body, our home, and our spiritual side as we are dreaming and sleeping, because our spirit travels when we sleep, and understanding our dreams, because if they've gotten into our head and we don't realize this doesn't make sense, right? Why did I do that? Maybe a couple of days later, you wake up and smell the coffee and go, you know what? I was never consulted. I was never asked, do I want to have this kind of a dream? Do I want to have this type of an encounter when they come around? Or is it just going to be like a drug? And there's no real give and take. It's mostly take. Then you start to feel, wait a minute, I'm just being manipulated. I'm just being taken advantage of, and I'm feeling used. So, yeah, it's difficult if you don't know how to go no contact and protect your psychic mind. Think about something different and pleasant before you go to sleep at night. And for now, I guess I'll just have to say so long until I continue this discussion of how we can develop our psychic self, find out who we are, get in touch with who we are, grow spiritually, unimpeded by people who are parasitical, and how to deal with them when you encounter them. Because I am now the mirror. I'm no longer looking at the person who's reflecting my unhealed empathetic nature to them and just doing whatever they want. I am the mirror, and I am saying, you're not conscious of what you're saying. You threaten to come in here and kill everybody because you're not getting the attention and the woman dropped in your lap. Say what you have to say. And if they badmouth you, it doesn't matter. Try to walk away, turn your head, do whatever you have to. You can say what you have to say. And we teach the kids in school in social skills. If someone is doing things, making noises or whatever, you ask them to stop and they don't, get up and move away. All right. Namaste, blessed be. I want to continue this next week. I hope people will stop by and engage. I might even hop on at another time during the week. I might do this twice a week. So long. Have a good night.